Hey everybody, I've got a really fun comparison test video for you today, especially if you're a hot hatch enthusiast, because for years, if you were looking for the ultimate hot hatch from Honda, you were looking at this, the Honda Civic Type R. It was fully redesigned for 2023. However, for 2024, Acura has stolen a lot of the performance goodies, the hardware from the Civic Type R, to create this right here, the 2024 Acura Integra Type S. And to find out which two of these hot hatches are actually better, I brought along my good friend Bern from Bern on Cars. Hey Bern.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. We're gonna actually compare the two cars. We're gonna show you guys side by side. We're gonna take them out for a drive. And again, in this video, we're gonna find out which one of these two is actually the better buy. So as most of you guys know, the Honda Civic Type R has been known as the hot hatch king. And Bern, you've had a chance to actually spend the last few days with this car.
Yes, I have.
What do you think of this thing, the new one?
I absolutely love it. I am a bit of a Honda fanboy, so knowing that I was able to have this car for a whole week really tickled my fancy. It's such an aggressive looking car. It really looks great with its full LED headlights. It is a lot more soft looking compared to the Integra, just the face of the 11th gen. I like the 11th gen as a whole already. It's just, they really did a good job with this one. It's definitely a little softer than the last gen Civic Type R, but they really did a good job.
You definitely hit the nail on the head there. This looks a lot more conservative because remember the old Type R had all those big wings, the fake vents. It was a little overwhelming at times, and it seems like Honda kind of gave a lot of the aggression to this model here because Bern, so let's move over to the Integra. This is your first time seeing the Integra Type S in person. First of all, seeing the two cars side by side is very, very nice to see.
Yeah.
You can't really go wrong in terms of styling. Styling's always subjective, but Bern, what do you think of the front end of the Integra?
I like the front end of the Integra, and dare I say a little bit more than the front end of the Civic. Mostly because since it is such a, I would say, high caliber performance car, this one just has a much more mean and snarling look to it with the diamond pentagon grille. I like that the perimeter of it is body color.
Yeah, so they call it a frameless diamond
interesting.
pentagon.
Oh yes, yeah.
I think this was one of the first to introduce it. What's interesting though is it has the same hood vent, the same functional heat extractor. It has the additional bulges and whatnot. But what I appreciate, I do like the headlights more on the Integra because the Civic has like a reflector style LED. This has the 4 individual LEDs with the chicane style. No fog lights on either model. I kind of wish that Acura didn't get rid of that, but you can see a lot of functional cooling here because you need the cooling. And then if you want, Bern, you can also black out those badges from the dealership. Would you do that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But yeah, so in terms of the styling, it's pretty subjective. Personally, I like the Integra more. I think you're also in agreement, Bern.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I think Acura just did a really good job with the styling of this vehicle. But let's move around to the side profile because the wheels on this car, they're pretty much identical. So both cars have a set of 19-inch wheels. They're kind of just finished a little differently. This has like a matte black finish, while this car has a shark gray finish. Which one do you prefer, Bern?
I like the shark gray. Everyone's doing black wheels. I do like that Honda went with a matte black on the Civic, but I like the gray. It's just, you can see the design of the wheel a little bit more. I like it.
Yes, and then they both have the identical brakes. They're both like a 13.8-inch two-piece rotor that's vented, and then you have a 4-pot Brembo caliper. They're the exact same size, and I believe they're pretty much the same. Acura just kind of puts their logo on the caliper versus Honda just says Brembo on it. Tires are also the same. They're 265 by 30s, so 20 millimeters fatter than the old Type R, although you brought this up earlier, or Michael did. The tires on this car, because of the bulging fenders, actually look a little bit smaller. And
they do.
I see that now. I imagine some owners are going to kind of try to space this out a little bit further. What's interesting about the Integra is the fact that this car is about a ½ an inch wider than the Type R.
I can tell.
Yeah, because again, Acura really wanted to give this a low and wide stance. In fact, the styling of this car, for me, I think is a little bit more cohesive. It looks a little more premium. The one thing I don't like though is Acura got rid of the sunroof.
No sunroof.
Yeah, this is the only Integra to not come with a sunroof, and they did it because the Type R doesn't have a sunroof. So I guess Acura was thinking track, or like people who want something like this, they're not going to need, or they're going to want the stiffer structure instead. But Bern, would you have rather had the sunroof?
I would have rather had the sunroof because if I'm paying for the Acura, which is the nicer car, I would expect a little bit more creature comforts, like even a normal single pane sunroof.
Well, this is the only Integra that doesn't have it, so it's kind of interesting why they don't include that. Now, in terms of length, you can clearly see this is the bigger car, but do you know how much bigger this car is compared to that?
I don't actually.
So this car is around 5 inches shorter shorter in the overall length. This thing is almost the size as a 3rd gen TL. It's 186 inches long. And I think it's actually a really well-proportioned car, but you can really see parking the two vehicles side by side, this is clearly the longer option. The one thing I noticed about the Honda though is you have a much better integration of the flare for the rear door to go with the rear fender, versus in the quarter panel of the Acura, this kind of has that little bulge out, which is kind of similar to the old Type R, but you said you didn't mind that, right, Bern?
I don't mind it on this one. The old Type R, it was just a little bit harsher of a transition, but they made it look smoother, and I like that it actually seems like it flows with the door, and it really gives this car, you almost saw me fall down, but it really gives this car wide hips and make it look real good sitting on the road.
Yeah, no, I mean, the stance of both of these cars just have a really nice presence to it. But let's come over here and look at the back, because the back of these two vehicles obviously are very different. Clearly, you can tell Honda wants to remind you that this is a hot hatch that's designed for a younger buyer because of the table on the back.
La table.
Well, this is actually a functional wing.
Yeah.
Honda says it does add downforce on the track, because remember, Type R is supposed to be for racing. This is supposed to be the track-capable model.
Car.
Right, and you can see with the taillight design, it has that that design language that Honda's been doing, that red emblem at the back, and then the badges back here actually are kind of blacked out, which I like.
Like a dark chrome.
Yeah,
One thing I will notice while in the time that I've had this, I mean, the Acura has it, so that is nice. I'll give them some credit. Incandescent reverse lights and turn signals, but the brake light and tail light is an LED unit.
Okay, see, that is a little disappointing, because this car's main rival, the Golf R, has an all LED tail light.
Corolla.
Yeah, I believe it does actually. So,
Corolla.
I mean, that's a change with the aftermarket, but it's something, it's a detail that Honda could have done. You pointed out earlier, this has a rear wiper.
And the Integra doesn't.
It doesn't have a rear wiper, but this looks more like a sedan, which we'll talk about in just a moment. And then you have the triple exhaust. Now, Bern, do you see the difference in the triple exhaust?
I actually do. Michael noticed it before I did, but the outer exhausts are actually smaller than the central exhaust.
Yes.
On the Integra, it's different. They're all the same size on the outside.
Yeah, and this exhaust system is basically very characteristic of all the Type Rs, although they did, from the previous generation, I think they changed the outer diameters to be smaller versus, like, I think the old one, the outer diameters were bigger and then the center one was smaller. This is an active exhaust, and it sounds okay. We'll go ahead and fire it up so you guys can hear how it sounds.
Let me go start it up.
Oh yeah, like, actually you could fire it up right now.
Start the thing up.
I'm usually by myself, so I was like, usually I have to kind of cut. Let's see how it sounds. Yeah, that rev limiter is pretty low, isn't it, Bert?
It is.
But you know, it actually does sound good. I'm assuming that was in plus R mode.
I was in R mode.
And it is an active exhaust. It sounds better versus the old the old Type R, but we'll find out from the Integra later on the difference in the sound. But let's talk about the styling of this model here, because this car has $1,000 extra for the carbon fiber rear lip spoiler from the dealer. Would you add that, Bern?
I don't think I would, because I remember you said earlier that they come black normally.
Yes, it's black.
The carbon fiber does look nice, but I don't know. For me, in terms of the spoiler, I wish it had a wing spoiler. That's just myself, but
I think that's the age difference in us.
It is.
You want that? Yeah, you want that table on the back.
Tables.
Although I think it would fit on this car. Actually.
It would fit.
I could see owners adding the little table on the back.
Don't mess up this car in 10 years. Keep this real pretty.
Yes, but in terms of the rear valence area, it kind of looks similar. You have the more aggressive rear diffuser, and then you can see here all three pipes are the same size. And this also has an active exhaust. But what's interesting is Acura actually deleted the front resonator on this model. Yep, and it has software changes. So let me fire it up so you can hear what it sounds like.
An ear gander at this thing here. I'm excited. We're gonna do this in one take. We'll do it live.
I don't know why the pops aren't happening. There we go.
This is better. This makes more noise, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, the pops, they didn't come on for like the first couple seconds, but yeah, it's, I'm assuming it's even louder from back here.
It is even louder, and that kind of makes me feel, in the time I've also had this, I wish this was a little bit louder.
Okay.
It sounds good, but just a little bit louder, I'd feel and hear the exhaust a little bit more, because it already sounds great.
Right.
the extra volume would be.
I imagine people who buy that and then hear this are going to be annoyed.
Yeah, they would be. I would be. Yeah, I'd be like, I could get that.
Yes, you could. But let's quickly talk about the cargo. This model here, as you can see, is a liftback, just like the Type R. And you have around 24.5 cubic feet of space. It's pretty identical, actually. The difference being is the lift over here is pretty high because the bumper kind of comes up.
I noticed.
Comes up pretty high. But you can fold down those seats and expand it out, although Acura didn't tell us how much cargo space you have when it's actually expanded. I'd say like over 40. But this car, as you can see, is a more traditional hatch. The opening is much larger.
It is a lot.
I feel like it's kind of easier to get stuff in. So if you actually do need to haul more stuff,
more
I feel
practical.
like this is a little more practical, although again, if you guys prefer the traditional sedan look, you're gonna probably want the Integra. Although, look at that, Bern, I see incandescent rear cargo light.
Oh, really? Is that
That one's LED, yeah.
Ah,
oh, there we go.
$8,000.
I know, that's where the $8,000 went, is the LED light.
That's only that. They do, I'm glad that both of them, the rear seats do fold. So there, does that one fold, right?
It does, yeah.
Okay, good. I almost, yeah. But I'm glad they both fold, so they're still fast, fun to drive, and practical.
Yeah. All right, Bert, let's go ahead and talk about the interior differences, because this is where the big money was probably spent on the Acura, at least. That's what we hope, right?
Yes, at least this one sings to you.
Yeah, I noticed the chime is sounds a little different than the other Hondas I feel like I've been in, but this interior is pretty much the standard stuff from the regular Civic. This was fully redesigned last year, or 2022, I believe. And what do you think, Bern, of the design of this car? You've been living with it for the last few days.
Yeah, I've lived with this for the past few days. I love the interior of the 11th Gen Civic. They did a good job. A talk point that everyone that has gotten in this car has mentioned is the long air vent that spans across the whole dash.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool, especially with the honeycomb kind of mesh insert. And then I also love the satisfying
everything
joystick
in here.
click.
That's something I appreciate about Honda. All the switchgear feels very nice to touch.
Yeah, no, it is a very upscale looking cabin. It's got a 9-inch screen here. It's got your phone connected. It's wireless, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is nice. I like how there's a volume knob as well. And then the materials here, you can see soft touch. It's also soft touch on the door panels as well.
Yeah, it is.
Have you had a chance to test out the sound system?
I have. But I have. It's always fun, listen, but seeing all these people. But the sound system is actually pretty good. The maintenance time, dude. But I know the Acura has the ELS system.
Yep. So this is a 12 speaker, I think, right?
Yeah.
12 speaker
so
Bose.
I've not listened to the ELS system, but this one has a moderate audiophile. I would say I'm a pretty into speakers, so this sounds pretty decent.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that Honda is finally using like Bose, because the old Type R had a really crummy like Honda premium sound system, which wasn't great. I like the placard here that kind of makes you feel like you're driving something a little more special. And then the shifter here, this is pretty cool. This is like almost S2000 like with that.
I love it, yeah, because I drove an S2000 and this shifter it's just been an absolute sweetheart.
Yeah, although did this burn your hand a couple times?
It hasn't yet. That's something, because I remember you had the old Type R a while ago, and I touched the shifter and I had for like a day the imprint on the top of my hand.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside. This is either going to get really hot or really cold, so you kind of have to get used to that. There's a wireless charger here. I like how there's no piano black plastic here, though. Yeah, it's got this kind of alloy look trim. And then the seats in this car, we have to talk about the seats, because these are like the ultra suede in like red, bright red, along with the red carpet. It's a lot of red in here. Have you found the seats to be comfortable in your last few days of
I
driving?
would say so. These are definitely not like a one size fits all type of seat.
Yeah.
But it's actually I'm a little bit wider, but I actually feel like I'm supported very well. It's like my grandma giving me a hug while I'm doing 80 around a corner.
Yeah, I mean, these definitely remind you that you're driving something that's designed for the track. Like they're going to hold you in place, but they're not as bad as some of like the seats. Like for example, I don't know if you ever drove the Focus ST and RS.
Or the Fiesta ST.
Oh yeah, those seats were awful. They hugged you, but they just, even if you were a skinnier person,
too tight.
They were too tight. They weren't very comfortable. But this material
soft
definitely feels nice. I like that. In terms of the drive modes, you've got 3 modes here: Comfort, Sport, Individual, and then there's a Plus R mode, which gives you a racing style tachometer.
Like S2000.
Yeah, that actually does look like an S2000. Yeah, it sounds pretty good from in here. Now I know Honda is also synthesizing the noise in here, which you know, as long as it sounds good, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Burton, did you drive this at night? Was there any ambient lighting in here?
There is some ambient lighting on the doors. There's just some red strips.
Oh, it's red.
Yeah, it's red.
Okay, so I'll talk about what the Integra
right
has.
there.
Okay, so that's nice that there is some ambient lighting. The steering wheel also, you can see it's got the red logo over there.
Spoke, leather
what does the
wrap.
horn sound like?
This one, actually, I had to use it because someone cut me off in this. It's like a, get out of my way.
It's like a little meep meep.
Excuse me.
Okay, well, I guess we'll talk about what the Integra has. And you can see here, I like the dual zone climate, which is nice, although no heated seats.
I've noticed that.
Yeah, no heated seats, which is kind of disappointing. But overall, it's a nice cabin, and it certainly has all the goodies that we expect from a Civic, at least on the pinnacle of Civic. I can see here no auto-dimming rearview mirror, but you do have LED map lighting.
That reminds me, visibility in the back. I've thought of it, and Michael has also mentioned it. Visibility in the back of this one isn't that great, so I wish that this had one of those electric rear view mirrors with the camera, because you could see better.
Okay, yeah, that would make sense. I'm assuming the wing, the wing does kind of
Just a bit.
It cuts you right in half.
Yep.
And stuff. Okay, well, let's go ahead and hop into the Integra, because I want to show you the differences and see if Acura has showed us that your money is well spent. So let's have you hop into the passenger side.
I'm a true gentleman as I open the door for you.
Aw. All right, so unlike the Type R, which only comes with a red interior, this car you can get in 3 different interior colors. So this is the Apex Blue with the light orchid interior, and I have to say, it's a great color combination.
Yeah, this is real nice.
And you can hear it has a different chime.
It does.
But then starting it up, it sounds pretty similar.
I can feel the exhaust in this more.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So like this car, because it has those pops and burbles, like you put it into Sport Plus, which there's no Plus R, although Acura says Sport Plus is kind of similar to Plus R.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine Type R owners are going to be a little pissed off when they. I would be annoyed. Now, I suspect you could probably maybe pull the front front resonator delete off of the Type R, and then maybe do a software tune to make it do those pops and bangs. But
Exactly.
I mean, other than that, the rest of this interior, do you see a big difference in it compared to the Civic?
Not hugely. I do see that there's heated seats at least.
Yes.
That's nice, but the vents don't span the entire dash like the Civic. It feels a little bit more upscale. I do notice that this one has the same 9-inch display and not the, I mean, I'm kind of glad not the true touch pad that they use.
Yep, I prefer this actually.
Yeah,
me too. This works better. You can see it has the same software, although Acura's, I guess, looks a little different.
I notice it's slightly
The
different.
colors are just different, but other than that, they're pretty much the same. You could almost kind of interchange the one from the Civic into the Acura. It has a slight different tweak. The screen here is also the same. This is a 10.2-inch display, although, unlike the Civic, this doesn't have the ability to kind of change the gauge cluster quite as much. So in comfort, you can see it turns blue. You heard it got a lot quieter. Go to Sport, it turns white, and then go to Plus or Sport Plus, it turns red. So it doesn't have that little race car.
Oh yeah, like the
tack.
S2000.
Yeah, I kind of like that on the Type R. That would definitely be nice. In terms of the steering wheel, you can see it's practically identical.
It does look a little bit nicer with these
the perforation. The perforation's nicer, and then you can see it's got the ivory stitching. It's got a Type S logo here. And then the horn in this car.
Wow.
I know. That's why I wanted you to beep the horn on the
They did a good job
They
on
put
this
a meteor horn, like a more like get out of my way.
Get out of my way. No, excuse me.
kind of horn. But I mean, in terms of the interior, like, Bern, do you feel like it has a more luxury feel in here?
Just a bit, I would say so. I don't, they don't have, this one has this like swoop on the dash, the Civic doesn't. And even, you know, this is the ivory interior.
The light orchid, yeah.
The light orchid. So I like, you know, the color and the contrast. Because it's a little bit lighter in here, there is piano plastic.
Yeah, you can
here.
see, I'd much prefer the Civic where it had the silver trim instead.
But it does feel a little bit more substantial.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, and this right here is also color matched, and only the Type S gets that. The regular Integra does not, because you can get that in red or black depending on the color. Door panel materials are also soft touch, and then the shifter. It feels pretty much the same to me, but I like the shift
I
knob.
like this more.
I
with
like
the
this
leather
knob.
on it.
Yeah, so this right here, it won't get quite as hot if you are driving it in super hot weather, quite as cold.
And it's felt.
Yeah, you also have the suede Alcantara for the shift boot, and then it reminds you constantly, Type S.
Type S, Type S, Type S.
Now, drive mode selector is kind of the same thing, although instead of Plus R, it says individual is its own button. which is kind of interesting how they kind of inverted that. However, this is an Acura, so it has to have some nicer touches. And what I'm noticing, it's got 3 level heated seats. The Civic doesn't have that, although I feel like in Canada, the Type R does.
They do.
This car also has a heads-up display.
Oh, nice.
So it has like a little small heads-up display that's standard. And then the Civic had a 12-speaker sound system. This has a 16-speaker ELS sound system. I think it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the Civic sounds good as well, but if you're an audiophile, you're going to want the extra 4 speakers. You mentioned earlier the ambient lighting in the Civic had red ambient lighting. This car has white ambient lighting that goes across right here.
Interesting.
Which
okay.
it looks fine, although I wish that Acura allowed you to color change it.
Yeah, to have it body color.
Yeah, you can't really change the color. And then you mentioned in the Civic earlier, this has an auto dimming rearview mirror.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I like the frameless design, but no digital camera rearview mirror, which would have been nice.
I also will say, again, no sunroof.
No sunroof, but I guess you do have the extra headroom, which is nice. But these seats, Bern, what do you think of these seats?
As soon as I got in this car, I was like, wow, the material is so much softer. Of course, it's leather with the Alcantara in the middle, but they feel real nice. They're not as supportive as the Civic, but for being this type of car, a little bit more daily drivable, a little bit more comfortable, this is acceptable. I like them.
Yeah, no, I think the seats, they fit the character of the car a little bit more, and also I like how this is a 12-way power driver seat. That is a manual.
Oh, it is. There's nothing there.
Right, but what's weird is the A-Spec Integra has a power driver seat, or power passenger seat, 4-way, and then they also took away the memory seats. This car has memory seats in the A-Spec, but I don't know why Acura took it out on the Type S.
That's weird.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but there are a couple of, obviously, upgrades, but I do think that I wish that the car had a sunroof. I wish that it had a power passenger seat. I also wish it had cooled seats.
Cooled seats would be real nice.
Cooled seats, I think, should have been.
Could go right
yeah, they could
there.
have put something here to give us a cooled seat. But I mean, other than that, you can see there are clear differences, but there are also some pretty glaring similarities as well. But let's show you guys the back seats really quick. Let's start with the Civic. Yeah, the back seat in the Civic. First of all, I'm noticing that the color doesn't match the seats.
That kind of annoys me.
Yeah, it's just my OCD. I wish it did. But once you're back here, there's like 37.5 inches of legroom.
I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, I mean, headroom space is good. Obviously, the no sunroof gives you the extra space. But again, only a 4-seater.
Yeah, with these 2 cup holders, there's also not an armrest.
Right, if you're going to take away, the center seat here, at least kind of give us an armrest. And then there's no other, there's no air vents, no
heated rear seats,
no heated rear seats, no USB ports, and not even a storage pocket.
Yeah, nowhere. I am impressed again with this space back here because I'm 5'9" and I have maybe 2 inches of legroom. I can fit my feet under the seat. Again, like we said, headroom is great. It's actually very accommodating with the seat in the position that I sit in.
Yeah, and also red seat belts. This adds another 5 horsepower, right?
Belt. Yeah, it does. 10.
But let's go ahead and hop into the Integra because this is where we expect Acura to have a nicer back seat. All right, so we are in the back seat of the Integra Type S, and the first thing I want to point out, the seats are not mismatched in color.
Yeah, I like that. It gives you a bit more premium of a vibe.
Yeah, so I mean, that was kind of my biggest issue with the Type R's back seats. It's kind of bothering my OCD. However, some of the things about the Type R have carried over back here, like the fact that this only seats 4.
With these cup holders.
Which is kind of annoying. And it looks a little cheap here out, and an Acura doesn't have like something better, I guess, a better solution.
Yes.
No armrest here, again, which it should have that. Now, materials back here are also hard touch plastic, kind of like on the Civic. However, because the seats are different, you do have one storage cubby.
Map pocket.
You have one map pocket, but again, this is an Acura, and it's still missing rear seat air vents.
Yeah.
No USB ports, no heated rear seats. I think that was a really big missed opportunity.
I think so, to make you feel like you're actually upgrading from that to this.
Yeah, now thankfully there is still a good amount of space. There's 37.5 inches of legroom, which is the same as the Civic. I'm 5'7", so I can fit really comfortably back here. Feet can go underneath the seats. One thing that surprises me, that's a hump.
Yeah, the hump.
Like, this is a front wheel drive car. I don't know why there's a drivetrain hump right there in the center.
Need exhaust clearance for off-roading.
Yeah, but overall, like, in terms of space, this is obviously, good enough for full-size adults, but I really think Acura missed the mark here by not putting some of those upscale touches. All right, so these two are the same cars in terms of hardware. Let's go ahead and pop the hood. The first thing I want to mention, Bern, this is an Acura. Do you think it has struts?
I don't think it does because, I don't know, I just had a feeling.
Nope.
It needs struts.
It
That's
should
another
have
thing.
struts because it is an Acura. It still has a prop rod, which I feel like is the same as the Civic. But let me go ahead and open up the
yeah.
Civic's hood
Oh.
because I want to see the engines and if they look any different.
I had to remember where the hood strut was, but this one has a hood prop
Okay,
rod.
but yeah, you can see that the engines are identical looking,
Yeah.
obviously, although Honda did put a slightly different engine cover on it. You can see it has the red for the cover, which is, kind of a heritage or throwback to the B18C. Is that the engine from the old Type R?
Yeah,
The old Integra Type R. But this motor here, it's the company's K20C1. I think that's what it's called. 2-liter turbo direct injection with VTEC. Not iVTEC, just VTEC.
And it makes 300,
15.
315
It was right on the tip of your tongue.
315 horsepower, thank you. And 310 pound-feet of torque. 310?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is, compared to the old Type R that had 306, so
Yeah.
Honda increased it by 9 horsepower. And then-
295 torque.
Yes, so that's a pretty healthy increase in torque.
Yeah.
Apparently the max boost pressure on this engine is 25.2 PSI.
Wow.
So it's got a lot of boost stuffing into that engine. Direct injection, like I said, 6-speed manual only. Yeah, thank God for Honda for saving the manuals. Still front-wheel drive though, with a limited slip diff, which we'll talk about later when we're driving the cars. You don't really need front-wheel drive for this car to be fast. You mostly need it for the traction, but 22, 28 mpg. Honda doesn't quote 0 to 60, but I think the last time I tested this, I got 5.2 seconds.
Not bad.
It's not bad, 170 mile an hour top speed, and this car only weighs 3,188 pounds.
Not bad.
So it's light, especially when you're looking at the all-wheel drive rivals. Now, in comparison, Bern, the Type S's engine, you can see the red is a different shade.
It is a little bit darker.
It's a little bit darker, but you can see
wine.
instead of Type R, it says Type S. Now, Acura says they've made some software changes to the engine. It's still internally the same motor. It still has the same 25.2 PSI of boost, but they've adjusted the software to give this car more mid-range grunt at a lower RPM. That's what Acura says.
Yeah.
So we'll drive the two back-to-back because I'm curious to see if we can actually feel a difference.
Yeah.
Like the Honda, this is also only front-wheel drive. No super handling all-wheel drive. Now, do you wish that Acura put super handling all-wheel drive on this?
At first, I do, but I haven't driven it yet, so I guess I'll see. And I only say I do because some other rivals offer all-wheel drive as standard equipment with the high horse trims, but I guess we'll see. Right now, I don't think so.
Yeah, so Acura wants you to compare this car to like an Audi S3, Mercedes AMG CLA 35, and then that horribly ugly BMW. You know what I'm talking about? The M235i Grand Coupe. The Grand Corolla is what I've heard Jason used to call it, because it's just an ugly car. But comparing to those European rivals, which are all-wheel drive, automatic, they are quicker, but this is the only manual.
Yeah, it makes it more raw.
That makes it more raw and more special, especially if you guys are an enthusiast. The fuel economy is actually a little bit less in this car, 21, 28. Which is literally 1 mpg.
Yeah.
The cool thing about this car, because it essentially doesn't have all that extra fat from like all-wheel drive or an automatic, it only weighs 30 pounds more than the Type R.
Not bad.
And it has the same top speed, so a little over 3,200 pounds. So we'll get these two on the road. We're gonna see which one of these actually drives better.
I'm very excited.
All right, so now we're finally driving the two vehicles, and we're starting off in the Type R, and I'm driving because Bern has spent the last few days in this, and we're gonna swap. He's gonna drive the Integra Type S. It's been probably 8 months since I've driven the Type R, so this is kind of a nice little first taste of the vehicle since it's been a while since I drove it. First of all, Bern, these seats, oh my God.
I really do feel like I'm in a race car because of
I know,
these seats.
they definitely scream race car. Unfortunately, Michael doesn't really have the same kind of lateral support back there, but up here you definitely get the sense that you're driving something special. But okay. I do like the shift lights in this.
Yeah.
This car definitely screams race car.
Yeah, it does.
The sound, I'm definitely hearing the synthesizer. It's kind of creating a fake noise
So you
through the
can go
speakers.
right.
Okay. Oh, you turned off the auto rev match.
I did.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a real driver. Yeah, I've turned it off. That was like the first day. I was like,
You hate the auto rev match.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's useful, but like, I'm like, I want to do it myself.
Wow, this thing definitely feels like it's on rails.
Yeah, it does.
Ooh. I like, even though this doesn't have the pops and the bangs from the Integra, I like the fake noise that it's making.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound bad. Like, if you're going to do a fake noise, it has to sound good. It's definitely better than the old Type R. Oh, and I heard a little bit of turbo.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the turbo, like, and the
Yeah.
blow off as well.
Okay, yeah,
so
no,
you
that's-
can go straight.
Go straight here, okay. But yeah, no, I mean, this thing just feels like a track car. It feels like a sports car. The steering
really
is,
does.
yeah, the steering is really sharp. In R plus or plus R mode, it really just has a good amount of heft.
Yeah, even as a passenger, I mean, like while I've been driving this, every time I drive it kind of hard, it's either a straight face because I'm really focused, like, or I'm like just have a stupid smile on my face. So like right now, I'm just been like smiling because this is such a fun car.
Yeah, no, I mean, even though this car is front wheel drive, a lot of the competition has gone to all wheel drive, even Toyota with the GR Corolla. You feel the fact that it's lighter. The front end just has so much grip. The suspension is really well damped. Although in Plus R, what do you think of the ride?
It's really stiff in R mode. I can like it is nice because I can tell that the adaptive dampers work in this.
Yeah.
Because in some cars the difference is marginal, but you really feel like you're in a race car with this.
Yeah, it may be a little too stiff to daily drive, at least for my taste, but you can always kind of dial it back by putting it into sport, or we'll go into the comfort setting just for a second, and you can see, I notice a difference right away.
Immediately.
It gets considerably softer, although, you know, I spent some time with the old Type R. I can't remember, I think the old Type R actually rode a little softer than this. I think Honda made it a little bit more stiff. Yeah, they wanted to go for the track times, which is fine, but we'll go back into the individual setting. We'll go back into the Plus R mode, because that's kind of what you want to drive this thing in for sure. But
sadly, we're behind this slow 90s Corolla.
Yeah, the Corolla, unfortunately, is kind of ruining our fun. But I mean, I love the way the seats hug you. You can see out of the car really well. And you just get a sense that you're driving something that can easily be taken from the dealership showroom floor and taken to a track.
And it just asks for it.
Yes.
There's not one time that you're ringing this thing out that it's like, no, let's not do this. It just wants the revs.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate the whole package of this car. And there's something special about it. It still feels very special. Look at an S2000.
S2000.
But in terms of the ride quality, we'll talk about that in the Integra, because Acura said they tuned it to be a little bit softer.
Interesting.
This car, it feels pretty similar to me, because I've been driving the Integra for a while. The ride quality feels pretty similar. The other thing that Honda mentioned is the torque curve of this car. They've tuned it for more high RPM feel, to give you a little bit more in the higher RPMs. This one, yeah.
I can tell.
Yeah, because it has that. I love the rev counter here, where when it's in race mode, it kind of gives you that racing style. But then you like put your foot down, it really wants to keep going. And those shift lights, they
loves banging gears. Natural.
Little torque steer there.
Yeah, it's a little bit like you have to wrangle it a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a front-wheel drive car. It has that dual axle front suspension. It has a mechanical limited slip diff, but there's only so much you can do when you're talking about 310 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of power. Have you tried launching this thing? Or doing anything, or turning off the traction control?
I haven't tried that. No.
I mean, I don't have my 0 to 60 timer on me, but I got 5.2 in the Integra. I'll have to retest this at some other point.
Yeah.
I imagine they're going to be similar. I mean, 30-pound weight difference. Yeah. You're not going to be talking about a huge difference. No. And it's also going to come down to who's the better shifter.
Yeah.
Who's the better driver.
The launch and shifting.
Yeah, launching these cars can be a little tricky. Actually, I got the best launch in the Integra with the traction control on.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it just roasts. It will roast the front tires. Yeah, it'll leave those black lines on the road, and you're just like, oh, this is embarrassing.
It's like an old boosted Civic, but a new boosted Civic.
It has the little beeps.
Yeah, it does. The shift light and the beeps make it real. Just you really feel like you're in a race car.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like that. It adds to the whole experience of the car. And in this mode, you really get the sense that Honda knows how to tune like a track car. Like, it feels like a track car, and that's what the R is supposed to stand for. But it's still surprisingly daily drivable. That's the beauty about this thing. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to kind of get into the Acura to see if Acura was able to soften it, because it's kind of like this car already feels great.
It does.
It already feels great. And then in terms of fuel economy, what have you been averaging?
So the car has been saying about 16, but that's only because I've been driving it the way how fun. Yes, the way how the car wants to be driven.
Yes.
But it's easy to daily drive, so I feel like you could get close to 20
Okay.
if you're driving it normally.
Okay.
In comfort mode, I've had it, early in the morning, and it's very soft, not very soft, but it's very easy to drive. So I feel like if you're driving respectfully, you can get close to 20 in the city.
Yeah, so I'll talk about what I've been getting in the Integra and that when we switch cars. But the downside with this car and the Integra is it has a very small 12-gallon gas tank. Mm-hmm. Yes, very small, and the most range that I was getting was about 300 miles.
Oh, really?
And that was highway miles.
Oh, wow.
So you'll be filling up quite often on premium.
Yeah. This corner down here, and then it's like a roller coaster.
Wee-wee. All right, so we have switched over into the Integra Type S, and as you can see, Bern is behind the wheel, and we're actually on one of your favorite back roads.
Yeah, we are approaching one of our favorite back roads. Just unfortunately, we're behind two RAV4s right now that are going slow, but shortly we will be seeing the handling characteristics of the Integra.
Yeah, so what are your first impressions so far, Bern?
It's already softer than the Civic. I'm in Sport Plus, which is the equivalent of Plus R mode in the Civic, and even now it takes bumps a little bit better. Feels a little bit more composed. The Civic is a little jittery on some bumps in that R mode, but this one really does feel a little bit more premium and a little bit more refined at what it does.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm genuinely surprised that Acura was able to tune the ride to be a little bit softer in this model, because at first I thought it felt like a Type R, but then when we drove the Type R first and then hopped into this, now I can clearly feel
I can tell with the seats, because they're a little softer and not as supportive. The Civic really makes you feel like you're in a race car. Mm-hmm. This one, the lane departure, which works. Oh no, we're coming up on a red light, and the RAV4 is going to take it.
He totally ran that light.
Video evidence. This guy ran it.
That's fine. He can run the light because we're first.
Space. Exactly. I will try some acceleration once it's green then. Damn it. Ooh. That's great.
Wow, I can see why you like this road.
I really like this, and this one isn't even the road. You will soon see the road.
Okay.
But it is like, this thing is a rocket. Like, the Civic feels great. This one, I kind of like how this one drives more, because I'm, again, less like jostled around and battered. This is just less race car-y than the Civic. If you want something that can do the same things that the Civic does. Now we're coming up on our road.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
This one just is more comfortable doing all those things.
Okay.
Oh no, this Highlander.
Now, does it feel quicker than the Civic or the same when you accelerate it?
I would say it feels the same. Okay. It just feels like it's a little bit different the way how it puts its power down.
Right.
But
because Acura said they gave you a beefier mid-range here, and I think you said you can feel it.
I feel it a bit.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, since we're stuck behind this BMW, Bern, we can talk about the sound. What do you think of the sound compared to the Type R?
I like the sound. Okay. I like the sound more than the Type R. Okay. They sound similar because, of course, it's pretty much the same powertrain.
Right.
But I can hear the exhaust more in this, and the auto rev matching, which I myself turn off. Mm-hmm. It helps. Wow. Ooh. And you can have it pop.
Yep. And that's why I'll just kind of let off the throttle and it goes pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, so that's like, the exhaust is more fun than the Civic. So, but I mean, with the Civic, you could just run to your exhaust shop and then have them chop the resonator off.
That's true.
But from the factory, this one sounds better.
Yeah.
I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys bought the FL5 Civic and then you get into this car and hear it for the first time, I'm sure you're going to be annoyed. But nothing that you can't do, fix yourself with the aftermarket. Although you're probably going to have to figure out, or wait a little bit longer while you figure out the software tune for the engine, because Acura said that they had to do a software tune so it would make those pops and burbles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because what it does is it kind of like, it wastes fuel when it does that. Yeah, it dumps some fuel in there. That's why it does that, because it's very wasteful. But it sounds good. So
it sounds good. Yeah, it's miles per gallon.
Miles per gallon, exactly.
Since we're also going slow, what have your MPGs been like?
So I have been driving this car aggressively as well, although I've been driving it more on highway, just because I drove it down here to come do this video with you. On the highway, it did around 27.5 MPG, which is good.
Yeah.
In my mixed driving of city and highway, I was doing about 22, 23.
Not bad.
Not bad. Now
performance.
I didn't actually get as low as the 16 that you got, but
Please.
They look like they're gonna go straight.
I'll give her some time.
Little torque steer there.
It grips so well.
Wow. I am impressed. I haven't even driven this car on a road like this before.
Wow, and it pops going downhill. Of course we're going slow here, but you can see how fun this car is. Like, the car really speaks for itself when you're on a back road.
Right.
Like, the car sells itself.
Yes.
This car, I've taken this car clearly just now on this road, and it really feels connected and really feels, like it's
A driver's car.
Yeah, a driver's car. Now, I do have to say, in this situation, I think the Civic would feel better.
Yeah.
As a daily driver, and if you're just, on some back roads and not really taking this on the track, this one. But I think the Civic is the real monster on back roads.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a little sliver of the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Bern, we've had a pretty fun day today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, we have.
Getting a chance to drive basically two of Honda's best hot hatches, the Integra Type S and the Civic Type R. Choosing between the two is definitely a tough proposition, Bern. However, we've driven both back to back. Which one would you go with?
So it's been very conflicting because they are, the keyboard warriors may be like, oh, it's the same car. But they do feel different, and they feel like they have different purposes. This one is softer and it feels more daily drivable, even though this is. This one is more race car-like, very rigid, and it really is like it's on rails.
Yep. This one's almost begging you to go faster.
It is.
Well, that one's just like, we can go fast, but you can also go slow.
And so, yeah, and I think because right now, I like cars that, I really like the creature comforts of this, but right now, because I like cars that, are like the purpose of
race
them.
Car?
Yeah. At first I was gonna say this when we first met up today.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna have to say that.
You're gonna go with
Civic
that?
Type R.
Okay. I respect your choice on that one. Now, I also think it shows our age difference here because Bern is like 10 years younger than me. But I see what you're saying. Me personally, I would go with the Integra just because I'm at that point where I'm like, I like to go fast, but I also like to put it in comfort and just cruise.
Yeah.
And I guess that's just me getting old. Getting old kind of sucks, but that's
I agree with you though. Yeah, it's nice being able to have something that's and then
yes. Yeah, the creature comfort on that car sells me. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind, the price difference, because this car here, as tested, 45 grand. That car is 53. Now, you could get it a little cheaper by deleting the carbon fiber spoiler on the back. You're looking at 52. So in reality, there's a $7,000 price difference between the two. Bern, do you personally think the Acura is worth the extra 7 grand?
Wow, what a question.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yes and no.
Okay, it depends.
No, because I wish it had a little bit more in it, like a sunroof and more accommodating of a rear seat and cooled seats and a few other little things that would make it feel like it's worth mid-50s.
Right.
So it makes it, if I think about it, this does feel like it because the interior is nicer.
Yeah, the interior is nicer. The fact that Acura gives you like the extra creature comforts, not like you said earlier, it's missing the cooled seats, the sunroof. I think those are some features that Acura should have thrown back in, like the memory seats, to justify the 53. Personally, I would buy the Integra and pay the 53 because I like the styling of the car too.
Yeah, me too.
It's a better looking car overall, but really, if you guys are looking for the ultimate hot hatch from Honda or Honda Motor Company, you can't really go wrong with either of these two vehicles. So just be happy that they both exist. Be happy that they're manual turbocharged gas cars and they're not electric because they just have their own fun character.
Absolute monster.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining me for this comparison test, Bern. If people want to see more of you, where can they go?
You can find me on Burn On Cars, and you can see the review of this one on my channel.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're also looking to see more of the cars that we're testing, be sure to follow us on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook. And as always, guys, please be sure to keep subscribing. But thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you all in the next video. Woo!